Good evening aspirants, welcome to the Hindu News Analysis session by Shankar IAS Academy for the date 14th of February 2022. These are the list of news articles we will be discussing today. Now let us get into today's discussion. Look at this news article. The article states that the Union government has filed a draft prospectus with the SEBI for selling 5% of its share in the LIC. In this context, let us learn about some of the terms mentioned in the article like IPO, offer for sale, etc. We will also discuss about the key difference between primary market and secondary market. Now let's start our discussion. First of all, what is a market? Technically speaking, a market is any place where two or more parties can meet to engage in a economic transaction. Simply put, a market is a place where people come to buy and sell. See, there are many types of market based on various criteria. But here our main focus will be on capital market. See, capital market is a place where funds are exchanged between suppliers of capital and those who demand capital for use. Capital market is further divided into primary market and the secondary market. Primary market is also called as the new issuers market. Secondary market is known as the stock market or the stock exchange. Primary market is used by issuers for raising fresh capital from the investors by making initial public offers, that is IPO. To put it in simple terms, when the shares is issued for the first time, it is called as IPO or initial public offers. The private companies after issuing IPOs become public. Okay, the follow-on public offer or FPO is a follow-up to the initial public offering. Okay. It is the issuance of shares after the company has been listed on the stock exchange. Okay. In other words, an FPO is an additional issuance of share while IPO is simply the issuance of share in the first instance. Note the difference here. Okay. With this understanding about IPO and FPO, now we will learn about offer for sale. See, offer for sale is when the promoters, that is owners of the listed company, sell their shares directly to the general public. Okay, it is a transparent process which takes place on the stock exchange. Most investors invest via FPO, IPO, or they simply buy stocks from the stock exchange. But in case of offers for sale, the investors buy stocks directly from the owners of the company. Okay, there is no middleman here. This is exactly how an offer for sale works. Now let us understand the meaning for offer for sale with a simple example. Say you want to buy a watch. You have two options. You can buy it from the random shop nearby or you can buy it from the Titan showroom. Both are equally accessible to you. Also, there is absolutely no difference in quality of the watch. But there is a catch. The Titan showroom is conducting a lucky draw. So there is a chance you may get 5% additional discount. Will you take a chance and buy from Titan showroom or will you buy from the nearby shop? See, in this example, Titan is doing a offer for sale and your nearby shop is the stock market with brokers. Okay? Investing in an offer for sale is buying the watch directly from the Titan showroom. Hence, in an offer for sale, you are buying shares directly from the promoters. Okay? You can also buy the same stock from the market but without the discount. Whereas in the offer for sale, shares are often offered at a discount to the market price. Offer for sale is extremely popular among public sector undertakings. It helps government meet its investment targets. A PSU offer for sale is generally provided at a discount to retail investors. Okay. Now having learned about offer for sale, we will also learn about qualified institutional placements. The qualified institutional placements or QIP is a method by which listed companies raise capital by issuing equities to qualified institutional buyers. A qualified institutional placement is a way for listed companies to raise capital without having to submit legal paperwork to the market regulators. It is common in India and other South Asian countries. The SEBI created this rule to avoid dependence of the countries on foreign capital sources. Okay, so QIP or Qualified Institutional Placement allows an Indian listed company to raise capital from domestic market without the need to submit any pre-issue filings to market regulator. Market regulator here is SEBI. Okay, this is all regarding the news article. Before concluding, let us do a quick recap. In this segment, we saw some important economic terms. First we saw what is a market, then we saw what is the difference between primary and secondary market. There we saw that primary market is the new issuers market and secondary market is the stock exchange. Okay. Then we saw what is IPO and FPO. IPO is the issuance of share in the first instance to raise money, while FPO is the additional issuance of share to raise money. Okay. Then we saw what is offer for sale. Offer for sale is when the owners of the listed companies sell their shares directly to the general public. Okay. Finally, we saw what is qualified institutional placement. See, qualified institutional placement or QIP is a method by which listed companies raise capital by issuing equities to qualified institutional buyers. Okay. This is all regarding this discussion. Now we will move on to the next news article. Look at this editorial. This editorial talks about combative federalism. According to this editorial, combative federalism is creating unnecessary conflicts. See, the conflict here is between the center and the states. There has been a shift from cooperative federalism to combative federalism in recent times. The author has given few examples of how this combative federalism looks like. See, in this context, let us learn about what is combative federalism with a few recent examples. Then we will see the ill effects of combative federalism. Then we will see what is cooperative federalism. Finally, we will discuss about the advantages of cooperative federalism and how it will help solve the present crisis. Okay. The syllabus regarding this discussion is highlighted here. You can go through it. First, let us start with combative federalism. See, federalism is derived from the Latin word foedus, which means agreement. In fact, federation is an agreement between two types of government sharing power and controlling their respective spheres. So, a federalism or a federation is a system of national and local governments combined under a common sovereignty. See, here both national as well as federating units have autonomous spheres assigned to them by the written constitution. See, when a center and the state share a vertical relationship, like in India, and when they combat with each other or fight with each other for their self-interest, okay, it is called as combative federalism. Now, let me explain you with an example so that you can understand the nature of combative federalism in a better way. Take the proposed amendment to the Indian Administrative Service Rules 1954. It was proposed by the Department of Personnel and Training. See, this has triggered a conflict between the center and the states. Why? Because firstly, this will take away the liberty of the states to deny consent for handing over civil servants for central deputation. Secondly, even if there was a difference between the center and the states, the center's decision will have to be accepted by the states within a specified time period. See, this proposed amendment was rejected by Tamil Nadu, Kerala, West Bengal, Jharkhand, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh and Telangana. So basically all the states where the ruling party is not in power. Now let me give you one more example. See, in 2016, the governor of Arunachal Pradesh decided to advance the assembly election. This led to a political crisis in the state, resulting in president's rule. At that time, Supreme Court intervened and set right the constitutional crisis. How? See, the Supreme Court said that governor's discretion does not extend to the powers conferred under Article 174. See, here Article 174 deals with the power of the governor to summon the house or the houses of the state legislature from time to time. Now coming back, the Supreme Court clearly said that the governor cannot summon the house, determine its legislative agenda or address the legislative assembly without consulting the chief minister or the speaker. Now by this time, I hope you have an understanding about combative federalism. Now let us see some of the ill effects of combative federalism. Firstly, combative federalism will lead to trust deficit between the center and the state. Secondly, since the center and the state is always fighting, there will be a delay in the implementation of people-centric welfare measures. Next, this whole issue of combative federalism is against the basic structure of the constitution. Finally, it brings conflict not only in legislation between the union and the state, it also brings conflict in administrative matters also. For example, the deployment of central investigative agencies in the state, much to the displeasure of the states, has aggravated the conflict situation between the union and the states. Now, having seen about the combative federalism, now let us see about the cooperative federalism also. Okay. So what is cooperative federalism? In case of cooperative federalism, the center and the states cooperative in a larger public interest instead of fighting for self-interest as we saw in combative federalism. So simply put, the center and the states among themselves also, they cooperate with each other. See, this kind of cooperative relationship is called as cooperative federalism. See, it is an important tool to enable states' participation in the formulation and implementation of national policies. Here you have to note that the union and the states are constitutionally obligated to cooperate with each other. Cooperation between the center and the states is one of the core objectives of Indian Constitution. Anything other than cooperative federalism is anathema to Indian Constitution. Okay. Now let us see the advantages of the cooperative federalism. Firstly, trust deficit can be addressed. If the central government cooperates with the state government by giving them the proper respect, the current situation that we are in can be avoided. Next, there will be ease of policy implementation. See, since there is no trust deficit between the governments in the center and the state, the government policy can be easily implemented. This will result in numerous benefit for the people and the industries. Next, cooperative federalism will help in achieving balanced regional development. See, after all Indians are our brothers and sisters. Okay, if properly implemented, that is, if cooperative federalism is properly implemented, policy measures can be formed through consultation from all the stakeholders to address the regional imbalance in India. Only if regional balance is achieved, the next step in the evolution of federalism, that is competitive federalism, can be mooted. If competitive federalism is pushed forward without achieving regional balance, only the rich states will benefit. So, first, regional balance must be established using cooperative federalism. Finally, cooperative federalism will help establish political decorum. When cooperative federalism is properly implemented, all the decisions will be taken in a consultative manner. So, the conflict between political parties will be reduced. This will result in good political decorum. So, the current scenario where the only activity in which the political parties are engaged in, that is mudslinging against one another, can be avoided. Having seen the advantages of cooperative federalism, now let us see the role of NITI Aayog aiding the process of achieving cooperative federalism. See, to enable good governance in India, the NITI Aayog has been constituted to actualize the important goals of cooperative federalism. We know that strong states make strong nation. So, to work towards the national development agenda, the NITI Aayog acts as a platform to bring the states together as a Team India. Okay. Now let us see the steps taken by NITI Aayog to foster cooperative federalism. Firstly, through structured support initiatives and engagement with the states and union territories on a continued basis, the NITI Aayog ensures cooperative federalism. NITI Aayog, through initiating meetings between the Prime Minister and the Chief Ministers, help share the best practice from one state to all the other states. This will help the poor states come forward. This will also help develop better policy for the people. An example for this is the launch of Aspirational Districts program for the development of backward districts. Next, the NITI Aayog has been providing relevant technical advice to the center, states and the union territories. We know that NITI Aayog is a body of experts. So, it is similar to the now defunct Planning Commission. But unlike Planning Commission, where the decisions are taken from a top-down manner, in NITI Aayog, the expert body only gives the technical advice. So, the states can modify it and implement it to support their local needs. There is no top-down thrust of policy. Okay. See, these are the measures taken by NITI Aayog to aid the federating units of our country cooperate with one another. Okay. Before concluding, let us have a quick recap. In this discussion, we saw what is combative federalism. Then we saw some examples of combative federalism in recent times. After that, we saw the ill effects of combative federalism. Then we saw what is cooperative federalism. After that, we saw what are the advantages of cooperative federalism. And finally, we saw the role of NITI Aayog in aiding cooperative federalism. With this, let us conclude this discussion and move on to the next news article. Look at this news article. It states that the leader of opposition in the Karnataka Legislative Assembly urged the ruling BJP to accept and implement the caste census report immediately. In this context, let's learn about socio-economic and caste census and its importance. We will also see what is the difference between socio-economic and caste census and the normal population census. See, 2021 is a census year. It is delayed right now due to the ongoing pandemic. So, in the prelims, UPSC might ask a question from census. So, revise the basics about census. Okay? Now, let us start the discussion. First of all, what is socio-economic and caste census? Socio-economic and caste census is a study of socio-economic status of rural and urban households. It allows ranking of households based on predefined parameters. It is used for identification of below poverty line families both in rural and urban areas. Okay? It is a comprehensive door-to-door enumeration drive conducted across the country. It is also expected to generate information on a large number of social and economic indicators relating to households across the country. See, the last socio-economic and caste census, that is SECC 2011, has 3 census components which are conducted by 3 separate authorities. The overall coordination was done by Department of Rural Development in the Government of India. See, census in rural area has been conducted by Department of Rural Development. Census in urban area is under the administrative jurisdiction of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Poverty Alleviation. Caste census is under the administrative control of Ministry of Home Affairs. Note here that the last time when socio-economic caste census was published is in 1931. So, socio-economic and caste census 2011 is very important. It is the largest exercise of the enumeration of caste. Now, how is it different from census? See, the origin of census in India goes back to the British times. The first non-synchronous census was conducted in India in 1872. Lord Mayo was the Governor of General at that time. After that, the first proper synchronous census was conducted in 1881. Since then, censuses have been undertaken every 10 years. So, the 2021 census is the 16th census of India. See, the census in India is carried out under the Census Act 1948. Okay? According to this act, government must keep individuals' personal information confidential. It aims to provide overview of the population. It is not concerned with any particular individual or any particular household. Okay? In short, personal data given in normal population census is confidential. Okay? On the contrary, all the personal information given in the socio-economic and caste census is open for use by government departments because it aims to grant or restrict benefits to households. This is the major difference you have to know. The next thing you have to know is that socio-economic and caste census 2011 was not conducted according to the Census Act 1948. This means disclosure of information is not mandatory and sharing of details is voluntary for the citizens. Okay? See, socio-economic caste census is important because population of every caste would help tailor the reservation policy to ensure equitable representation for all of them. It is used for identification of below poverty line families both in rural and urban areas. Thus, it helps in identification of correct beneficiaries. Okay, that's all regarding this news article. Before concluding, let us do a quick recap. In this discussion, first we saw about the basics of socio-economic caste census. Here we saw that socio-economic and caste census is a comprehensive door-to-door enumeration drive conducted across the country. The first socio-economic and caste census was conducted in 1931 and the socio-economic and caste census 2011 is the second such drive. Then we saw the basics about census. There we saw that census is conducted according to the Census Act 1948 and the first census was conducted during the time of Lord Mayo in 1872. Then we saw that census is conducted every 10 years and the census 2021 is the 16th census of India. Finally, we saw the difference between census and socio-economic and caste census. The main difference is census is conducted according to the Census Act of 1948 and socio-economic and caste census is not conducted according to the act. Next, we saw that data collected by the normal population census is confidential, while the data collected during socio-economic and caste census is open to use by all government departments. This is all regarding this discussion. Let us conclude and move on to the next news article. Look at this editorial. It talks about the global supply chain of semiconductor manufacturing. This editorial also tells what India has to do to become a key player in global supply chain of semiconductor manufacturing. Let us not get into the detail of this editorial. Instead, we will take this opportunity to discuss various efforts taken by the government to develop semiconductor industry in India. Now let us start our discussion. See, semiconductors are material which have electrical conductivity between conductors and insulators. We know that bulk of the semiconductor manufacturing and supply capability is concentrated in a handful of countries. It includes Taiwan, South Korea, the United States, Japan and China. So, the governments worldwide, including India, have realized that it is a national interest to treat chip manufacturing as a strategic imperative. In this context, we will discuss 3 important programs launched by the Indian government to boost semiconductor manufacturing in the country. See, Indian government has the aim of positioning India as a global hub for electronic system design and manufacturing. So, the cabinet in December 2021 approved the comprehensive program for the development of sustainable semiconductor ecosystem in the country. It had an outlay of rupees 76,000 crores. This program provides incentives to those who set up semiconductor fab and display fab and semiconductor laboratories. The government has also launched India Semiconductor Mission as a part of this program. This mission aims to build a vibrant semiconductor and display ecosystem. It will enable India's emergence as a global hub for electronics manufacturing and design. It will also help in achieving the vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Okay. Now, the second important scheme. This scheme is called as the SPECS. It stands for Scheme for Promotion of Manufacturing of Electronic Components and Semiconductors. It was launched in 2020. This scheme aims to strengthen the electronic manufacturing ecosystem in the country. The scheme will provide financial incentive of 25% of capital expenditure for the manufacturing of goods that constitute the supply chain of the electronic products. Now moving on to the third important scheme. This scheme is called the Production Linked Incentive Scheme for Large Scale Electronic Manufacturing. The scheme offers a financial incentive to boost domestic manufacturing. It also aims to attract large investments in the electronics value chain, including electronics equipments and semiconductor packaging. This scheme gives an incentive of 3% to 5% on incremental sales of goods manufactured in India. Here the base year for calculating the incremental sale is 2019-20. See, the schemes and program which we have discussed will help India realize its semiconductor dream. That is, India's dream of achieving a $1 trillion digital economy and a $5 trillion GDP by 2025. That's all regarding this article. Before concluding, let us do a quick recap. In this discussion, we saw 3 measures taken by the government to give boost to the semiconductor manufacturing in India. The measures we discussed are Comprehensive Program for the Development of Sustainable Semiconductor Ecosystem, Scheme for Promotion of Manufacturing of Electronic Components and Semiconductors, that is SPECS, and finally we saw Production Linked Incentive Scheme for Large Scale Electronic Manufacturing. With this, let us conclude this discussion and move on to the next news article. Look at this news article. The news article here talks about former MD and CEO of National Stock Exchange. The article says that a yogi dwelling in the Himalayas was behind the National Stock Exchange MD's orders. The former MD and CEO of NSE was Chitra Ramakrishna. SEBI says that she was steered by this yogi in the appointment of Anand Subramanian as the exchange's group operating officer and advisor to Chitra Ramakrishna herself. Also, SEBI says that she shared certain internal confidential information including financial and business plans of NSE, dividend scenario and financial results with the yogi. See, let us not get deep into this news since it is not relevant for our exams. Instead, let us utilize this opportunity to know the basics about SEBI its functions. Okay. Also, we will see some points about Securities Appellate Tribunal along with its purpose or functions. Okay. First, let us see what is SEBI. See, SEBI or Security Exchange Board of India was initially constituted as a non-statutory body. SEBI was constituted on April 12, 1988 through a resolution of the Government of India. Then SEBI was established as a statutory body in the year 1992. Note that the provisions of the Securities and Exchange Board of India Act 1992 came into force on January 30, 1992. So, SEBI is indeed a statutory body. Now let us see some of the basic functions of SEBI. The first and the most important function of SEBI is to protect the interest of investors in securities. The second important function of SEBI is to promote the development of securities market in India. The next important function of SEBI is that it regulates the securities market. The functions of SEBI include regulating the business in stock exchanges and other securities market. SEBI is also involved in registering and regulating the working of stockbrokers, sub-brokers, share transfer agents and other intermediaries. See, I have attached here some other functions of SEBI for your reference. You can go through it. Okay. Having covered the major points about SEBI, let us discuss about the Securities Appellate Tribunal. See, Security Appellate Tribunal is also a statutory body. It was established under the provisions of Section 15K of the SEBI Act 1992. Now, what is the purpose of this tribunal? The first function of the tribunal is to hear and dispose of appeals against the orders passed by the SEBI. Secondly, its function is to hear and dispose of appeals against orders passed by an adjudicating officer under the Act. The third important function is to exercise jurisdiction and authority conferred on the tribunal by the SEBI Act or any other act for the time being in force. Finally, after a government notification, Securities Appellate Tribunal hears and disposes of appeals against orders passed by the Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority. This is under Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority Act 2013. Finally, after the government notification, Securities and Appellate Tribunal hears and disposes of appeals against the orders passed by the Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India. This is under the Insurance Act 1938, the General Insurance Business Act 1972 and the Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority Act 1999. That's all about this news article. Before concluding this discussion, let us do a quick recap. In this discussion, we saw some details about SEBI. See, SEBI is a statutory body which is governed by the Securities and Exchange Board of India Act 1992. Then we saw about the functions of SEBI. See, the basic function of SEBI is to regulate the securities market and to protect the interest of investors. Okay. After that, we saw some points about Securities Appellate Tribunal. See, Securities Appellate Tribunal is also a statutory body established under the Securities and Exchange Board of India Act 1992. The main function of Securities Appellate Tribunal is to hear and dispose of appeals against the orders passed by the SEBI. The additional point to note here is that the Securities Appellate Tribunal also hears and disposes of appeals against orders passed by the Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority and the Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India. With these points in mind, let us conclude the news article discussion session and take up the practice prelims questions. Today we have 4 practice prelims questions based on our discussion. Let's see them one by one. Let's take up the first question. This question is in regards to capital market. Okay. 4 statements are given. We have to find the correct statement. Okay. See, from our discussion, we can easily eliminate the first option because we know that primary market is known as the new issues market and secondary market is known as the stock market. So the correct answer is not option A, and option B and option C are interchanged. That is, the definitions given are interchanged. Qualified institutional placement is a way for listed companies to raise capital without having to submit legal paperwork to market regulators. And offer for sale is when the owners of the listed company sell their shares to the general public. So, since option A, option B and option C are incorrect, the correct answer is option D, none of the above. Okay. Now moving on to the second question. This question is in regards to socio-economic and caste census. two statements are given, we have to find the incorrect statement. Let us take up the first statement. Socio-economic and caste census 2011 collected the first ever figures on caste. See, this statement is wrong. Actually, in 1937, the caste figures were collected. So, socio-economic and caste census 2011 was not the first ever survey to collect caste figures. Now let us take up the second statement. Personal information given in the socio-economic and caste census is confidential. See, this statement is also wrong, because we discussed that personal information given in the socio-economic and caste census is used by government departments, because the aim of the socio-economic and caste census is to grant or restrict benefits to households. So, since both the statements are incorrect and the question is asking us to find the incorrect answer, the correct answer here is option C, both 1 and 2. Now let us take up the third question. It is a 3-statement question. 3 statements regarding semiconductors are given. We have to find the correct statements. Okay, let us take up the first statement. Semiconductors have resistivity or conductivity intermediate to metals and insulators. See, this statement is correct. Semiconductors are indeed materials which have electrical conductivity between conductors and insulators. Now moving on to the second statement. Semiconductors are small in size, consume low power, operate at low voltage and have long life and high reliability. See, this statement is also correct. The statement is indeed a advantages of semiconductors. Okay. Now moving on to the third statement. When a small amount of suitable impurity is added to the pure semiconductor, the conductivity of the semiconductor will be decreased. See, this statement is wrong, because when a small amount of suitable impurity is added to the pure semiconductor, the conductivity of the semiconductor is increased manifold. Such material are known as extrinsic semiconductors or impurity semiconductors. The deliberate addition of desired impurity is called doping, and the impurity atom that are added are called dopants. Such a material is called doped semiconductors. So, since statement 1 and statement 2 are correct, the correct answer here is option C, 1 and 2 only. Now let us take up the last prelims practice question. This is a 2-statement question. 2 statements are given. We have to find the correct statement. Okay. Let us take up the first statement. SEBI is a statutory body. See, from our discussion we know that SEBI is indeed a statutory body established according to the Securities and Exchange Board of India Act 1992. So, statement 1 is correct. Let us take up the second statement. SEBI regulates the business in stock exchanges and other security market. See, this is one of the function of SEBI. So, this statement is also correct. So, the correct answer here is option C, both 1 and 2. The mains question based on today's discussion is displayed here. Write your answers and post it in the comment section. If you like today's discussion, like, comment and share with your friends. And for more updates regarding UPSC preparation, subscribe to Shankar IAS Academy YouTube channel. Thank you.